So he was just kind of worried about letting it down. I said, not to worry. I said, I've got the thing to let it down. So that's what we're waiting for, some weather right now.
Thanks, Ed.
Any questions?
Okay.
I just want to say thanks for always staying on top of our bus maintenance and repair and going above and beyond and filling in as a driver. And Ed just does a ton for us. So thanks for the report. And of course, we will do what we need to do to keep the buses up and running and safe. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we'll approve any proposed changes to the playground fence. So I guess quick recap. Shortly after the last board meeting, the board was sent an email by a parent concerned about the height of the new fence that was put on the playground. There were kind of two concerns presented. The first one was the height of the fence behind the basketball courts, and that the kids, I think, were repeatedly losing equipment, balls over the fence, and somebody had to go chase them. The other concern was just an overall safety concern, that she felt that the height of the fence just wasn't enough. So I passed, it was actually sent to the old board members. I rerouted it to the new board members. There was a little bit of discussion, and then I said I would look into getting some costs from Dick Anderson to change that. What I have proposed is changing the fence behind the basketball courts, because I do think that nuisance, that headache that is there, does present challenges that I think are probably unnecessary. And if there was an oversight, in thinking about the basketball courts being that close to the fence, I can see that. So the bids that Dick Anderson gave back is for 100-foot, basically right behind the basketball courts. A new chain link fence at 8 feet high will cost us $7,700. Or the other option was they did throw out a net that could be put up, slightly less. I think it was $5,500. They used that quite a bit, I think, on some baseball fields. I asked a question about the longevity. He said the fence crafters gentleman replied that they've had it up on some baseball fields. I don't remember what he said now, but quite a few years, and it seems to be standing the test of time so far, but it wasn't an enormous amount of time. Chain link fence obviously is probably going to last forever. I don't know if you have, that's how that item came to be, and we can take it from there.
So I just want to add that we also had some conversations around safety and the height of the fence. So the principals and I attended an incredible national level threat assessment safety conference at MSU right when school got out. And we were able to ask some of the experts there, and they brought some really great points to consider. So our previous fence had different varying heights around the school playground area. This one is all standard, and it is the same standard fence that Dick Anderson has put in at all of the new schools across the state. So this is the standard height of fence for schools. They didn't have a lot more to say about it than that to me, about why they use that height of fence or anything else. The safety folks that I talked to at the safety conference said you really have to think about what your highest risks are and what you're trying to, protect against or weigh out. So if they mentioned like the shooting at the concert in Las Vegas, when everyone was inside of those tall fences and people couldn't get out and escape, and they couldn't get over those tall fences, for example. So if we have a fire or an active shooter situation where we have people escaping or evacuating onto the playground, do we want them not to be able to get out easily over the fence, or do we want parents or other folks to be able to lift them over the fence? Do we, or them to be able to hop over the fence easily, or is it bigger concern a stranger coming by and pulling a kid over the fence. So you have to kind of weigh out what are we really concerned about here and what is the real risk. The thought also is that we should have adults. Obviously, we have adults on the playground monitoring, and the fence areas would be an area that we would want to keep someone would be monitoring this, especially by the gates. We also need to do further investigation into whether the gates should be locked or not. We've heard both ways. Are we trying to keep everyone in once again, or do people need to be able to get out? So those are conversations that the safety committee will take up, and we'll get further advice. We have also been consulting with the Safe Schools Center out of Missoula. They're grant operated, so we have them as a free resource to utilize, and so we will be reaching out to them as well. So those are just some things to think about in regards of safety and the height of the fence. I do think it's crazy that our basketball hoops ended up going towards the street, but that is a whole nother conversation. Our school turned out beautiful and amazing, and everything can't be 100% planned as, or, thought out. So I do understand the basketball issue. So if we did, whether, the board felt the need to do the chain link or the netting, we would either use funding from the building project if there was any remaining. However, with the addition, we're not at the point where we can make 100% confirmation on that, from what I understand. Do you have any?
At the moment, the contingency sits at $5,925.
So it would not cover.
So it wouldn't cover the fence itself.
And that's if we don't have anything else coming.
Right, the project isn't completely done, so that doesn't leave us with a lot, but obviously if we get to the end, those dollars could be spent on that.
Right.
To take that balance to zero before we get anything else.
We also have some building reserve permissive sub-funds that are from when the state came around and did inspections of the schools many years ago and made a priority list of things that they felt like schools needed to make improvements on. And then we were awarded these funds. So we do still have some funds left from that have to be used in the manner of building reserve funds. And one of the options was improvement to safety and security. And so we believe we would be able to use those funds, but we would have to verify with OPI. So those would be the options to pull from as far as we have figured so far.
How much is in that permissive building fund?
That exact
101,508.
I think that sub-fund might be small.
That's the building reserve fund.
That's the full building
Yes,
reserve fund.
that's
I
the
think
full.
that sub-fund, I'm not sure how much is in the sub-fund of that.
And
But
then,
it would be enough to cover the fence.
so I was looking up some bills that passed this last session, Senate Bill 213, which allows us to basically take any unused fund balance outside of retirement, another category, I can't remember what it was, and dedicate it to school safety. Have we looked at any of those options as well?
We don't have any unused funds.
The bill wouldn't take effect until July 1st, so we could potentially look at alternatives after the first next fiscal year, correct?
That'd be something to think about for next year. Yeah, like I said, we'll be right on target for budget, so I don't see us having any unused funds at this time. But thank you, that's a good idea and something to consider for next year if we have any safety needs.
Just a couple things here from my end. First, when's the next member safety committee's meeting?
As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, now that we know and have those committees set, I will work with you guys and email you to get that safety team pulled back together. So we have a district school safety team, and then we will also bring in members of the board to that So we are ready to get back to work and meet. And I sent you, as board members today, a summary of what we've done so far and completed, and our next goals and items of our to-do list on our safety planning committee.
Does that fall under operations?
The other thought I had on the 8-foot fence, I actually like the idea of the 8-foot fence with one condition that we look at on the inside of the fence, we put some basically makeshift stairs or ladder mechanism to where kids can at least climb up and get out if they need to instead of being trapped inside. But they don't have that option from the outside going in. Well, that's something I think the safety team consider to help mitigate some of the concerns about being trapped on the inside. Over.
Okay, thank you. I will take note of that for our safety committee agenda.
So that committee she's referring to is actually the district staff, more so than the board. But
Jason did sit in on it last time,
Yeah.
and I think we were discussing whether safety fell under,
Usually
it's kind of a tough one
facilities,
because
yeah.
it was more so under facilities in the past.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's kind of gone towards the student services side of things these days with like wellness being involved as well. So it's hard to say. In the past, it's been the facilities and so the operations, correct?
that's where we typically started. Like I said, all the committee meetings end up being public board meetings. You know, all the trustees are welcome to sit in terms of, you know, being public participation that way.
Yeah, and we have a really great comprehensive district team that we put together for safety. Sheila is one of our outstanding members, for example, one of our paraprofessionals that has a lot of first responder, NIMS training, very highly trained in emergency and safety response. So really cool to have her on the team, one of our leads. And we have representatives from every group in the building on that safety committee. So we just need to get back together and back to work, and we're looking forward to that. And I sent you out that agenda today, or that the updates and kind of our plans for going forward today. And I'd be happy to put that on a July agenda as well.
Have we sought any federal grants from the Safe Schools Initiative from the feds? There's 15 or 20 different grants we could apply for school safety as a whole, not just specific to this issue, but
Yeah, we did. We received a $10,000 grant last year for school safety.
from OPI for Montana,
Yeah.
but not the federal.
It was through the
level.
federal government, and then through OPI. So yeah, those are kind of confusing because the federal grants go to OPI and then get dispersed to the schools.
I don't want to take this into a conversation on school safety right now because that's not what the
Right.
intent of this topic per se is. But I've got great concerns with both styles of a 4-foot or an 8-foot shaking link fence. I don't care for either. So whatever, I'm taking a motion yet, but I just state that I'm not in favor of the proposed 8-foot either. I reached out to the sheriff's office this week, and they also have concerns about chain link, as well as other issues within the facility and access, especially the design as well of some of the classrooms. And so I don't want to take this into a safety discussion now, because that's not the point, but that's where I'm at anyway, is I don't like, and that's why I'm so big on this, is I don't like either option. So however,
And we don't have to.
You don't have a motion yet.
Right, we don't have to.
I'm just saying, that we don't have this, we're having a discussion before a motion, so I was trying to follow point of order, but I just want to make that clear that I don't think it's wise move on our part to have either option there, especially facing the street, facing the playground. The design is not well, in my opinion.
What are you thinking?
In talking with the sheriff's office, they prefer some kind of brick wall, some kind of brick opportunity to block either both entrance of people who shouldn't be on the playground, but also extraction of kids over the fence, but then also to mitigate some threats that are there from exposure. Clearly, we can have gates that are digitally locked or unlocked. It could be unlocked from the office, gates unlocked. There's things we can do, I think, to protect the playground better. But that's not the point of the whole topic. So I want to save the safety discussion for later. But it's a very big passion of mine that we do it right rather than spend $8,000 to have a makeshift solution.
Oh, we can table this one, or I guess postpone, decision on it until we have a more safety oriented.
Comprehensive safety discussion.
Well, so it's up to the board. I'll let, whoever wants to make a motion on it, I just want to let you know that that's where I stand. If you want to go forward with the chain link, that's the point of topic.
Oh, and I had one more thing to mention. Daniel, you're sitting very nice and quietly there. But Daniel did inform me that we would have to request a variance if the fence was going to be over 6 feet. From the city, request a variance from the city, which we'd have an application process and a fee for. So thank you for bringing that to my attention when you reviewed the board packet.
I believe that would probably be the same whether it's the chain link or the netting, because the netting would still be considered a screening, I believe. Not sure. I'm looking at Christina.
Yeah, the ordinance is over 6 feet. So.
Yeah. I did have one question, and we can discuss it now or not, but has the netting been used in that purpose before on a playground?
That's what I was wondering.
I'm just seeing it-
Baseballs are different than basketballs.
I'm seeing in not knowing what it looks like, entanglement and stuff like that, and I was just wondering if we've seen this before, if they've implemented that before.
I would have to ask that question.
Okay.
I did not ask that.
Do we need a motion to table?
No, we'll just defer consideration. If no one is interested in making this motion, we will just move on and we will come up with a better motion and plan for the next later meeting.
I don't think it would be a bad thing.
Okay. Okay, we will move on. Approve the classified agreements. So I'll touch on this. The negotiating committee has been meeting since I think the end of February with the certified and the classified associations. We had close to 5 or 6 meetings. I felt like we did a lot of good work. We did a lot of just language cleanup in the documents themselves, things that had just been changed by various different people over and over throughout the years. I mean, there were sentences that didn't make sense and just language that was outdated. We got recommendations from MTSBA on some things that we should bring forward from the district side. The associations and the union brought forth the changes that they proposed that we make, and we kind of blended those all together into the document that is before you. From there, of course, we get into the nuts and bolts of the agreements for the dollars and cents and anything benefits for the employees. Don't know if you have any more on the classified agreement.
Just that we have the updated memorandum of agreement that I passed out to you guys. That would be attached to the back. This just describes the agreement with the classified staff that the paraprofessionals that are doing a certain level of care or work with our students and are trained to do so will receive a higher rate of pay during the time that they are with those students.
So I guess the bigger component of the dollars and cents for this one, the association came to us and we as a district have been talking about it for a long time, was really trying to focus not so much on an across the board percentage on the matrix that they already use, but it was really focusing on trying to get that bottom end and trying to be able to attract people to the positions that we struggle to fill right now. And we also consolidated some of the columns to try and make it simpler for our district clerk and just for people's general understanding. And so the focus was really on moving the bottom up. And in doing so, we did give everybody a percentage increase, but it was not just a flat increase for everybody, because the focus was on getting the starting wages, the beginning people, you know, creating a more attractive reason to come to Townsend School. And I appreciate both the unions, the classified representation. We have both the president and the vice president here tonight. I appreciate them taking their time to be here. I don't know if you have any other comments that you would like to add to that.
That was a great, we came up with a great plan. I think that everybody's pretty pleased with it.
Yeah, and so as I think I discussed a meeting or two ago, you know, the negotiations committee sits down, the union representation, the negotiations committee. We work through all the details. We come up with what that group considers a tentative agreement. From there, they take it back to the rest of their association, and they have to actually vote on it and approve it in terms of ratification on their end. Now it comes to the board. The board has had an opportunity, except for this poor guy, to have an opportunity to look it over, and then the board approves it. And once that is done, then the agreement is set. This is a one-year agreement. Sometimes in the past, we've done longer term agreements. This was a pretty big change for both parties on this one. So we agreed that, you know, let's do a one-year agreement. Let's see what happens both for the employee side and of course for the district budget side. And so we have just a one-year agreement with the changes in place.
You still there, Chase?
I am.
Okay, did you have anything to add?
Nope, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if anybody has any questions or a motion to approve?
Just on the classified staff, as far as the 4-day school week, how do we ultimately pan out there with their hours and not reduction of hours?
So the classified staff will be able to maintain their hours or have slightly reduced hours depending on their desire to work on Fridays. So obviously we have, it'll be a great opportunity for our custodial staff to do maintenance and deep cleaning on Fridays, like carpet shampooing and those kinds of things that need to be done that we can't do when we have the school full of kids or late in the evening. So they will work their regular schedule and hours. Our kitchen staff have plenty of ordering and prep work, and we've done a shift of some duties as well. So we've reduced some office staff that have previously helped with our food pack program, where Ms. Hartman does a lot of work on, and I write the grant annually to Town Pump 4. We send backpacks home. Jason's son used to take care of that for us, and since he left, we've had office staff helping. And the kitchen staff will now do the food packs for us on Fridays, for example, and other duties. And then if we have fifth day programming, they could also serve meals. So those different kinds of things. So they will have the opportunity to maintain their hours as well. Paraprofessionals would also, they're going to have their day extended just like the teachers. And it would be just a few hours. They'd be short, and they would have the opportunity to pick those up on Fridays if they so choose. I think those are the groups. Joe and Luke have worked out their schedules so that one of them will always be here. They kind of work different shifts. Luke's going to work 5 days a week, and Joe's going to work 4 days a week. They'll vary. Joe works late on Tuesdays, obviously, so he gets his hours in, and then Luke will come in Fridays. So it seems like every different group has worked it out. The office staff has also has extended hours or opportunities of different tasks and like reporting that they can do, ordering and reporting that they can do on Fridays. So the plan is to keep everyone whole, and so that's one misconception there has been, that, you know, the schedule change would be a cost savings to the district, and it is not.
Yeah, I was just looking at it from a personnel standpoint.
Yeah, and we would want to,
Still whole.
yep, we will keep the employees whole.
And that was one of our big things as the union was to try and make sure that it was equitable for everybody.
Yeah, I appreciated that, Joe and Luke really were concerned with other staff, like the kitchen staff and the paras and those positions being able to maintain their hours, as well as having a better starting wage at the beginning of our matrix. So they did a great job of advocating for those folks.
And we have interest from staff to keep their hours. As far as you know, we're not going to be short-handed.
No, not as far as I know.
Is there a motion?
Do we need to do them separately?
Yes, please.
I'll move to approve the classified agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the classified agreement. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve the certified agreement. Yeah, same thing. The beginning part that I described there, this one was, the highlights of this one is a 4% increase to the base. And we negotiated with them to reduce the sick leave days from 15 down to 12. We also changed emergency bereavement leave. In the past, it said up to 7 days, depending on superintendent approval. We took out the superintendent approval and just reduced that to 5 days. And under the personnel leave, last year we added provision for floating day to allow the certified employee can move 1 day from their sick leave to their personal days if they have it available. Before that said 2, and that was reduced to 1. Other than that, there was a number of different language changes. The other big one that I guess I want to discuss is the creation under meet and confer 13.1. We agreed to a labor management committee will be established to discuss items of interest or concern not addressed through negotiations. The committee will consist of district superintendent, 2 board members, and 3 teachers. The committee will meet once every 3 months during the school year. Either party may request a meeting if there are items that need immediate attention outside of the regular scheduled meeting. Meetings by request will be scheduled within 10 working days. So the attempt here is just to give everybody a little more face time throughout the year to discuss things that don't necessarily pertain to this agreement, but things that are going on, concerns, interests, all those things to just help hopefully expedite the actual process when we get back a year from now into the negotiations process, that having those quarterly discussions, everybody will be a little more informed and we'll have a little better idea of where we need to focus our attention on that. So I guess in looking at the committee assignments, I guess we got some flexibility there. I don't know if we want to keep it with the negotiations committee, those 2 individuals that sit and represent the board. I don't think it would necessarily have to be that way, but we can maybe try that for the first year and then see where it goes from there. That was one of the bigger items.
Was there any discussion on that? Maybe you just said it, how that committee is chosen as far as the teachers? Is this a union that pick those?
Yep.
Or are they?
I guess my question would be on 89. We still have times in there that I don't know if that has to be adjusted after calendar is done, or because it still has 3:30 releases and 2:30 and so forth. So 8 on H and on 9, 9.10. Or H.
How darn you?
And on page 9, 9.10.
So on this page that I passed out, we had a couple of last minute housekeeping items as well that during ratification, members brought up since the board packet's been out. So we can just add those sections to this. And so if everything else looks good, we would, so there's 7.2, 16.2, the inserting of a page and the extra duty language. And then we would add the sections that Mrs. Hartman just referenced, and you guys would,
They would match the calendar that is going to be.
we would say that those
Okay.
sections would be altered to match the calendar, and then you guys would make a motion to adopt as amended, if
I would
you
like to
agree.
point out that it was in the original email, but I don't see it taken out in G. There's a plus sign in front of B granted.
Yeah, that was already printed when that
Okay.
came out, but yes. I guess any other, from the union representation that's here, any other comments on that process or the document itself? Okay. I think we got it.
It's a duty day.
Basically,
They're signed like the day, the time they're to be here and then to leave.
so what are you
It's not a day. You guys are comfortable with the new added language?
there was, in our process, we had some proposed changes and some things they identified that we didn't have checked off the box. And so rather than start over again, they just said, we'll just leave the language that's currently in the document. It doesn't change really anything. It was simply how it was worded. Yeah, it was a long process, but I think we accomplished what we needed to. From the district side, we agreed or settled on a larger percentage increase than we have ever, in my understanding, and at least at my time on the board. But, we're working, trying to make, teaching in Townsend something that people want to do. We want to keep the teachers we have. We want to attract new teachers. And we spent a lot of time working with Pam and Casey. I did, and Chase did there a little bit at the end, and Mr. Olson there at the beginning, trying to make sure that we can make this happen in the budget. And we will have to make some changes. Susie, superintendent, will have to make some changes in the budget when we start doing that work in July and August. But I think this was where we felt the district could afford to do, and I think the teachers agreed that in the end it was what they were willing to accept.
Yeah, we definitely worked hard in the office to tighten the budget as much as possible so that as much money was on the table as the district could manage for the raises for the classified and certified employees. So we are going to have to tighten some things up on other areas. There's not much to cut the majority of our budget salaries. So we'll have to be very mindful and diligent and careful in our ordering of anything additional, such as supplies and those kinds of things going forward.
The increase in the student population, that's where, the money basically comes from. So that's been with our increased enrollment does give us, some opportunities that we didn't have in the past.
It also takes a year to catch up. Our A and B is a year behind. So we're still running a little bit behind on that. So that's something to keep in mind also. So this year, for example, the kindergartners keep coming. But we won't see the money for this large group of kindergartners, even though we'll have to hire another kindergarten teacher. This year, we won't see money from that until next year.
So does the increase in the A and B funding from the legislature this year, that takes effect next year?
We took into account the increased funding from this session
This session?
in our projections already.
Okay.
Yep, but the additional students that keep signing up,
Right.
that we're having to add teachers for, we won't get funding for those students being enrolled here until the next year.
So the amount per student
Yep.
goes up.
Yeah,
I'm following you.
yeah.
There was a supplemental that was passed too for high enrollment. Do we qualify for that?
We did receive that,
Okay.
yes. And thank goodness, because we did have to add teachers and we did have additional costs to utilize additional classrooms that we hadn't planned on using. You know, we had to buy additional bookcases and sets of curriculum. Even like in the middle school, Mr. Rock saw a huge increase. We had to buy additional books and all those additional materials. So it really does come with a cost. So we were really fortunate to get that increase. Yep, and I believe that's definitely helpful in making us hit the budget on the nose and order. And within that, we have ordered our needed materials for next year. And then we have them, like I said, in priority after that. So we will hit the nail on the head with the budget. And then we'll look at what we have left and what we can live without or what we need to find a way to pay for. Sorry, going into budget, getting me off track. That's July and August.
Approve the certified agreement as amended.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the certified agreement as amended. Is there any discussion? Mr. Olson.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. I would like to actually make a suggestion or recommendation for the next process, which I think has been absent in this particular process. And quite simply, that's documentation, minutes of committee meetings, and or, recording the meetings and having transcription. At the beginning of meeting sessions, there is a lot of where were we last night? And there's a lot of catch up that ends up having to be done. And I believe that through, it can be a shared responsibility between the board and the unions to have an accurate accounting for what it is that actually happened. We're not recording those. They are a part of open meeting laws because they are a committee. We either have to, the district either is required to keep verbatim minutes or record. The other point to that is as you bring forward each of those minutes, any discrepancies in understanding or misunderstandings are more easily resolved between the union and the district. And I actually think it would be beneficial since the contract isn't presented in an interline format where new changes are underlined, strikeouts are interlined, or the general public's review, that a committee report, a written committee report be generated with the input of the negotiations committee and the unions that actually in kind of a summary format says, our first meeting was on this date, we met on these dates, these were things that were generally addressed, and the format and the substance of the changes that are being proposed for the board's consideration, discussion, and ultimate approval contain all of these different high points. The public doesn't have the ability to necessarily attend every meeting, and I don't think that discussions are, even in contract version, if I were to make a Public Records Act request to the district and say, show me various iterations of the agreement, I don't think that the district would be able to provide that in a manner that's compliant. And I, again, in the vein of being transparent and providing a detailed amount of information, something in the format of a committee report or aggregate minutes of all of the meetings that were part of the process is advisable, not actually best practice. So
We do have committee meeting, the
minutes
meeting
are-
minutes are in the agenda.
there are summary minutes, though.
Yeah, they're not
Don't
verbatim,
necessarily-
and they could be better. I will.
You know, and to that end, they're not prepared between one meeting to the next meeting so that both sides can look at it and say, okay, we met on this date, these were the items we discussed, did anybody see anything that we missed? We all understand where we're picking up from and moving on to the next place from there. It also kind of extends with the discussion that we have during this period, that this package of approving both collectively bargained agreements and the approval of the calendar actually are, even though it's not put in the agenda, are actually approving a 4-day week. That is something that I think should have been presented more clearly from the district to say 4-day school week, and the subparts of it, the components are approval of the certified collective bargaining agreement, the classified agreement, approval of the calendar, which was presented at the special meeting on May 22nd. And that in and of itself would have probably generated more public interest. And I think would actually reflect better the motions and the direction of the discussion. But right now, this seems very anticlimactic. And that is either a good thing or a bad thing. I would like to think it would be a good thing. But we haven't heard any results of the survey that was sent out to determine needs and those kinds of things. And I respectfully won't get too far off point, but I think that the approval of the agreements and being able to provide our stakeholders, voters, with a better documented and more detailed process is something that is advisable, and it is something that is required for us to communicate.
Appreciate that. Any other discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve the 2023-2024 calendar. So as was mentioned, this was first brought during the special meeting a few weeks ago. And then tonight will be the actual approval of it, dependent on any further discussion or questions. Do you have any more to add to that?
No, I just want to say that Mrs. Hartman takes the lead on the calendar from the administrative team, and she worked hard to come up with all different kinds of options. We also reached out to neighboring districts. I spoke to a lot of superintendents about different models and different calendars, and I know the teachers also assembled a team that worked very hard, and everyone was able to collaborate and come together. And the calendar meeting came to agreement so quickly that by the time I got done dealing with or solving a problem in the office, coming to a solution with someone I had to meet with quickly, they had already agreed on the calendar, and I was like, "Where is everybody?" So it went very well. They definitely came to consensus quickly, and a lot of thought and consideration went into the calendar. I do plan to review the 5th day questionnaire during my report, and it is planned to be on the agenda for July for how we will, the board will vote to address those 5th days and what kind of programming the board would like to offer. So that is still planned to be discussed tonight and to be a bigger part of our meeting in July if the board so chooses to agree to this calendar.
Is there a motion?
I will move to approve the 2023-2024 calendar.
I will second it. It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2023-2024 calendar as presented. Is there any discussion?
Just a thanks to everybody that was on the calendar committee and the work to get the consensus, bring that forward so quickly. I didn't receive any public comment from the time we presented it the last meeting.
I can't hear whoever's talking. You can hear me.
Just saying thanks, Chase.
Yeah, I heard no comments either since the last meeting.
We tried to get the calendar out everywhere we could for public comment. It's been out for weeks and I haven't gotten any negative feedback. I did talk to our neighboring superintendents and knew that the length of the day for the elementary students was the only issue that they had in some of our neighboring districts when they tried to go like beyond up to 4 o'clock or beyond. So knowing that those were concerns that had come up in their communities, and I know concerns of Mrs. Hartman and her staff, we didn't try to extend the day that long.
We figured out what we're gonna do for breakfast.
We need to figure out a lot of things still, and that would be one of them. Of course, we would still provide breakfast. It might be in the classroom.
Well, and I talked to Mrs. Vicky a little bit, and she was talking about, we already offered it starting like 7:35. So honestly, I mean, we're getting really close to that anyway, still. So it was already started at 7:35.
And if students, we would never deny a student if they need to take their breakfast to the classroom when they get here, or take a few minutes to eat their breakfast before they go to class. We always make sure that happens.
We do that now.
Are we stuck on the 318 for K2?
That was the committee.
Could they
What is your thought?
get a few extra minutes, like at 3:15, or does that mess everything up?
Well, I don't know if it does.
I think I have to go back and look at, I don't have those calculations on this one, but I think their minutes are plenty. I don't think 3 minutes, but I have to go back and do the calculations on it.
My recollection, and it's vague, was that it was in order to keep it the same contact minutes as we had before,
Yeah.
and that's why we did the extra 3 minutes.
So that those teachers didn't have additional time, so that all teachers had the same contact time.
Right.
Well, it was the
Same as what they were.
They were before.
So whatever hours they have now, like it's 1,000
Yeah.
hours, whatever it is, that's why they did 318, so they still got 1,000 hours. Is why it's that 318.
That's 18 is kind of a weird number too. I
So
mean,
48.
make a motion as you see fit. The other one we can't change.
Right.
348, that was just a.
Yeah, I thought the little ones had a little more leeway.
They do.
It was given like the same amount of time.
If you wanted to see something different, you could make a motion for that for sure.
You'd have to amend the motion.
Yes,
Motion
it's
is
a
on the
substitute
floor.
motion.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Holiday. just because I'm not at that side of the table doesn't mean I'm not still as big a pain in the neck. No, my question relative to the calendar ties in a little bit with the certified CBA. That's, we have a duty year that's defined at 187 days. We have 157 instructional days and 8 days of professional development, give or take. How is the 187 days defined in the duty year merely, is that isolated just to figuring out a day rate?
It was there simply to do their daily rate of pay and to make sure that that stayed the same so that it didn't have a negative impact on retirement and wage tiers.
Okay, I didn't know if there was, I don't want to have something vague that somebody can be accused of trying to get an upper hand when it certainly wasn't intended.
No, it was
I didn't wanna have that,
thoroughly discussed.
And we
agreed
sought
with
guidance on that as well, from legal and from the negotiations.
Purely day rate.
Yep, it's simply there to calculate their daily rate of pay.
Until we can figure out perhaps a better way to calculate it that's not necessarily based on days. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. I apologize, I'm gonna backtrack just a hair. Negotiating committee is not quite done. I should have brought this up in the committee reports, but we still have to we have to agree, we agreed earlier that we would go back and sit down with the administration again because we did their contracts back in February. The 4-day school week thing came up since then. So we will meet again with the administrators to talk about the days that are represented in their contracts. Also, we have to do the district clerks because their contracts, we started those with the new employees in November and we only did them through the end of June. So we still have to meet with Pam and Casey both and renegotiate their contracts for the coming year. We will do that very shortly. But that I forgot to mention that when we were talking to committee reports earlier. Okay. Individual transportation contracts.
We have a couple of families that we have individual transportation contracts with. That is if a family lives outside of our 3 miles from a bus stop or the school, or has certain special education needs for transportation. So we then have a contract and a state, it goes through OPI, a state agreed upon rate to reimburse them. It's standard practice we do annually.
I think it's actually only 1 mile from the bus stop.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'll move to approve the individual transportation contracts as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the individual transportation contracts as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve student attendance agreements.
This is a similar thing. We do this annually, regular business. So anytime we have students attending outside of our district or attending our district from other areas, we fill out the attendance agreements. It's an OPI standard form. We are not charging tuition at this time in our district, but that could be a piece of it if we were. It has been in the past. If our students are going to another district that charges tuition, that falls upon the parents. One thing that is new that has changed is if that student qualifies for certain Title I services, that district can charge us for those services. If they're not attending our school, but they require certain Title I services, we pay a small fee. That is something new, but it did impact our Title I budget slightly last year. the larger districts and like Shodare, those kinds of schools are now, now that things are so tight, they're taking the time to do that paperwork to request that funding from us.
I'll move to approve the attendance agreements as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the attendance agreements as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve renewal of Montana Schools Property and Liability Insurance Plan.
Sorry. My turn?
Your turn.
Yes, gotcha. I'm ready to roll here. So one of my duties is to shop for insurance. We have had multiple claims with floods, and our hail was a huge one. So right now with our 5-year loss, we're not in a good place to get competitive quotes. And so I work with the insurance committee to bring quotes forward, and we have chosen to stay with MSPLIP.
Rates are the same as far as year to year, or have we gone up in coverage rates?
We haven't had much of an increase with them.
I don't need to know specifics, I was just generally asking.
Yeah.
Making sure if everything costs more, we're protected.
Yeah, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary.
Last year's premium was $107,468. This year's premium is $127,887.
So 20,000
But I think a lot of that is due to the new
addition.
school.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve the renewal of MSPLIP as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the renewal of the MSPLIP as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve school county library budget.
So the budget is in the packet, and I want to say thank you to Vanessa Flynn, has been a dedicated member to the library board and attends regularly. And her and Angie are both here, obviously, if you have any specific questions. I also attend the library board meetings as frequently as possible. And they came to consensus on this budget, and we're ready to go.
Vanessa, anything to add to that?
No, just that Mrs. Giano has been really good about trying to keep things up with the county and keep us where we should be. So, thank you.
And working with the district as well, you know, knowing that we needed to tighten up the budget a little bit. Angie found areas within the library budget that we could have some savings on the district side, and was made those changes, so I appreciated that.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the school county library budget as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the school county library budget as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve broad voice phone contract.
So I did email my notes on all of the various bids that we received and the quotes to the board. Earlier this summer, when Luke and Joe were frantic in my office because our current system will be inoperable by the end of the summer. It is a very old server-based system, and we can't get new phones, for example. I always joke that's why they put one of the worst ones in my office. It works about half the time because they really want these new phones. But it is really a bad situation. Although I knew, it was going to be costly. And so as long as we could get by and make it work, we were notified that it will no longer be able to work. So we have to make a switch. This will be a cloud-based phone system. This is the, and Luke's much better qualified to speak to this, but so through our conversations, this is a cloud-based system. This is the best system. They went through all kinds of demos and really investigated all the options and met with various companies. So I trust their judgment and agreed with the price point on this one. I think the biggest change will be that we would not have phones in every classroom. We do have the intercom system, and almost everybody has a cell phone these days. We will have, so there is definitely ways for teachers to reach out to the office through the intercom system. We have emergency buttons and an intercom system, so we have that intact. However, we would have phones in the workrooms and in the extra office spaces we have, or in the lounges, those kinds of things to make parent phone calls or private phone calls. And then in the necessary offices, there'd be phones. This would be reducing the number of phones that we have. They're quite costly to run and to purchase. So this includes 30 phones. And Luke has all the details.
We started this discussion, I think, probably a little over a year ago when we were tearing down the old elementary and having to look at, do we put all the phones in the new building? And, we looked at the costs. And at that time, we knew this day might be coming before too long. But, we tried, in looking at the construction budget, we thought, well, if we can get by with these phones for a little longer, maybe we can save some money. And now, a year from now, they told us our phones are obsolete. So, Luke did the majority of the work on this, and if he's got anything to add, I'll let him.
I think the only thing I'll really add is that currently we pay about $500 a month to CenturyLink for our service that's going away. So that $826 a month is really only going to be about a $300 increase per month. And it's totally cloud-based. The only thing we're going to have here are physical phones. And we don't have to pay anything for the phones with a 3-year contract. So if we have any issues, they just send us a new phone.
So roughly how many phones are disappearing? How many phones do we currently have?
So we still need to talk numbers. This bid needs to be renewed, but it was for 30 phones, which is basically everybody but the teachers. Because I think when we had the teachers included, it was around 75 phones.
And it was then like
And it's
closer to
basically
$2,000.
It's basically $20 per line for the most part. So we can add more phones here and there, but adding another 40 phones kind of doubles the quote. So.
Will we still have voicemail then, or will that be separate?
Yes, so the phones that we have would have voicemail. And I know as far as for teachers contacting parents and stuff, they have a lot of different programs they use now too. I don't know how much phones are actually being used anymore as far as for contacting parents.
So we don't have a system where you cannot call a specific teacher and leave a voicemail for them.
No, we would not with this. Yeah, they would have to call in and go through the intercom system.
So I know K5, we're using Class Dojo more so for that. The other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that this system offered something where a teacher could call out from their cell phone, but under a school phone number.
So that would be for those that have a phone. That there's a phone app where you can use your phone to text and call, but it would come from the school number.
Right. And I'd be willing, to have the teachers utilize my line for that, for example, or we could have a designated teacher line for that potentially. something to think about so that teachers could call. That is an issue that we already run into on the weekends when we need to call families from our cell phones or if something comes up. And some people may or may not feel comfortable using their personal cell phone. So we could have one of these lines set aside to be like the teacher line. You can call it through on anybody's cell phone, but it's a school number that would show up to the parents and not the teacher's private phone number. And then you can also like forward your phone to your cell phone, a lot of different capabilities that we can't currently do.
So that's in going out, what about out coming in? Right, so I think Vanessa's point is we'd be calling, instead of individual teachers, you're still working through the
So they
main
call
office.
office
And
all
then
the
so,
time.
right, so that's not gonna create an added burden then for office staff to be able to pick that up.
How many phone calls do you guys get from parents?
From parents?
On
A
your
few a week,
classroom phone?
a few a week.
I know when we were originally looking at this probably 2 years ago, we did do a survey with the teachers, and I probably still have the results for that. It was pretty much, a third that really wanted their phones, a third that could care less, and then a third that did not want phones at all.
Oh, I'm good with letting mine go. I hate it.
There's definitely gonna be some teachers that are, not gonna be happy. We can add numbers all we want, it's just gonna be $20 a line per month. So that's definitely something we can look at as we go too.
A different perspective too, I get a ton for other people because of the 441 prefix versus 266 and mine's still on the 266, so I get a ton from the library several times a week that they want me to tell their kids to not ride the bus. So, I mean, that's something to think about as well.
I think that's just a matter of getting the class dojo, getting
Yeah.
people to sign up for that so they can communicate that to their teacher versus calling all the time, because that happens a lot of last minute stuff.
And we would be port forwarding our numbers, so the people who keep their phones would have the same phone number. So we wouldn't have to update anything, as far as phone numbers.
Do you have major concerns with the middle school about that, right?
I do, yeah. I've talked to Luke and Joe about it, and anybody that would listen. I think, I understand we need to save money, and I understand not all the teachers use them, but one of the things that I think is really important is, you can use all the other stuff you want. There's nothing like being able to pick up the phone and talk to the parent. We do that a lot. I mean, there's not a day goes by that I don't have a call and I tell them, yeah, that teacher will get back to you on their prep and we'll give you a call and you can discuss that. Because you just don't, my experience is you cannot duplicate a conversation through email or dojo or whatever, because there's I get emails all the time and I call a parent and go, is there a problem here? No, there's not a problem. It's just different when you talk to them. And I think it's fine if we have a system where they can use their cell phone, because one, I don't think any teacher should have to give out their personal
Correct.
home contact or cell contact. And I would never ask a teacher to do that. But if we have a system where they can call back, during the school day, and it comes from a school number, I'd be fine with that.
And that's what we're looking at, is
Obviously,
putting
I'll
some
be fine with
phones
whatever
in
we do.
some central locations for.
I think that's important though, and it needs to work. We need to make sure it works the way we think it's gonna work, because I think that being able to contact parents and parents being able to contact teachers, I do have concerns about them not being able to call and leave a message I think that's gonna be a lot of burden on office staff, and I think a lot of messages are gonna get lost in the shuffle, because when your little red light is on, somebody wants to talk to you. And teachers hear about it if I walk in and their red light's on. And it drives me crazy if you don't go back to people. But
Would it work to have one for grade level? I mean, go in janitor?
not. But I think, I think the issue is because then then what are you gonna do, listen to the messages everybody else leaves for you? Those are sometimes kind of personal. And so I guess we have a way to call the school number, that's fine.
Lisa.
I have some concerns about special ed not having a phone, because they make phone calls to parents on a pretty regular basis. And those are phone calls that really are confidential.
And I still have special ed as part of those.
Yeah, okay.
I was just gonna say that too, because that's what they,
Yeah.
they need to be
Because
able
they
to
use
make
their
phone
phones a
calls out
lot, yeah, I get that.
throughout the day.
Yeah, and we definitely, I mean, would need to communicate and do a good job of messaging the new protocols and plans and what lines were working and not working to the community and to the parents.
Luke, is this a fee based on the phone, like a physical phone or the line?
The line.
It is the line.
It is
But the
the
phone
line.
comes with the line.
So there were some that we had where you could get just the mailbox,
Yeah,
but those were still $20 a month.
they are.
Yeah. So the cost is basically the same, yeah. We have looked at that. Yeah. They know what they want.
Yeah.
Couple of concerns I guess I have is I found inconsistency. I really like the class dojo, but I have found inconsistencies throughout the year on being able to reach that teacher, whether they're checking it more often than others. Sometimes it's a few days later before we hear anything back. I've had it for a few years and it's still complicated sometimes which comment place you're supposed to be putting that. So I think there'll have to be some outreach there. And then another concern I guess I thought about was expecting teachers use the personal equipment. And kind of the way I'm looking at this is I know and it could be very well different, but still being public employee, as soon as we at the state use our personal equipment for any type of work, it now becomes identifiable in a lawsuit. So that part of it does have some concerns because school district pushing that use and then what happens? I mean, hopefully nothing ever, but it is something I think should be looked at.
And it definitely wasn't saying pushing that use. I didn't mean to imply that, but
Yeah, it's more a feature that they could.
If we
access
had
on their phone if they wanted, or on their, desktop computer, if they had a microphone, we can make phone calls there to answer.
Yeah, I guess I was more related to the just being an option is how for them to reach out. And I guess the lack of knowledge here is the intercom system, is it two-way?
Yes.
Okay.
What is an auto attendance menu? If you
So-
don't have a phone.
So that's where, when you call our 3430 number and it says, if you want to reach this person, press 1, this person, press 2. It's basically just our beginner menu for directing phone calls.
But if only 30 people have phone calls, you only be able to call those 30 people.
Right, yeah, it would be just whatever numbers we have.
does it make the message for me?
It would be a lot easier to record it, yeah.
I guess the only thing I'm, trying to also think about the office, and I don't know if we can look at some like just speaking on the elementary area, but like on the flex space or something, because right now I'm thinking we've got like third grade way at the other end of the building, and a lot of times kids are having to call home or call from the classroom, and for them being unsupervised to go either to a workroom or being sent to the office, then that's putting more on our office again. And so I don't know if there's something to look like, maybe off the flex space or, something in two ends of the building, I guess. Maybe Brad's old office for them, I don't know. Just
Yeah,
kind of like-
those spaces were already determined, the workrooms and the lounges.
Right, but we've got kids at the other end who are not gonna be supervised now, that's what I'm saying, so if there's something to kind of look at.
Yeah, so I have to get an updated quote regardless, because this one expired in April. And the 30 was just what I looked at and kind of guesstimated on who would need a phone. But yeah, I would definitely like to sit down and actually look at who exactly needs a phone, how many we need to bring in. And like I said, it's, if we decide come September, somebody needs a phone, it's easy to add one. You probably have to wait a week or so for the phone to physically get here, but I mean, we can
Yeah.
add them pretty easy.
I was just thinking of supervision and ill students and so forth, and if there's a way to kind of make it so it got both ends of the road, I'm sure.
So that goes back to what Kim was saying, if we could put one per grade level in a flex area, then we're able to supervise those kids
Correct.
much better.
Right.
That's still quite
Versus a
a
work
few
room.
more
Yeah.
phones.
But that's versus a workroom or something instead, that's what I'm saying, something that's.
But in a workroom, it's, you can shut the door and make a phone call, is like on your prep is the thought.
I know the world's going this way. We have to, do you guys feel like there'd be enough support for you? I mean, Luke and Joe, I mean, I know IT, anything computer-wise, and just don't want you guys to get burdened a whole lot more.
No, this would be a lot less for us, because right now we have a physical device in here. I know we've had a couple years ago where it went down, and we didn't have phones for 2 days, like right as school was starting, that we had to get replaced. I know last year our line got cut, we didn't have phones for like a month.
More than a month, it was
So,
like 2 months
yeah,
last summer.
it was-
It was really
So-
quiet.
Yeah, with everything being cloud-based, we don't host anything here, we don't have to worry about any equipment dying. The only equipment we have is phones. You know, as long as we got internet, we have phones.
We'll have to worry about me calling
Yeah.
or texting you from my cell phone that my
Yeah,
office
so this
phone.
would be a lot less overhead for us than trying to change stuff on the whole system.
How much time do you figure you need to make the swap?
So we would have to talk with Broad Voice, but I would feel most comfortable with at least a month to make sure to get everything in, get the updated quote, what they would need to change.
So if we
Yeah.
wait on this time, get an updated quote, maybe see what we can do about getting a better number of
Sure, yeah.
how many phones.
Yeah, because
we
we get
really
a
need.
updated
Yeah,
quote.
the issue, or my big concern was that, these guys were really worried about, being able to get it done over the summer
Yeah, I
and meet the
want
deadline.
to say the letter we got said September 20th. It was sometime in September.
I thought it was 10th,
Could be the 10th. It was sometime in September, basically.
and
where
they get very
At that point, they're
busy.
gonna end our copper service in here, and then we would not have any calls.
And you guys, mid-August
Yeah,
to September 10th are not available to do that level of work from what I've seen in the past.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
They run the tech training days, they are handing out all the devices for students when they return to school, all of that work. So I would hate to put us in a situation where we didn't have phones.
And training staff as well, so they
And-
consider on the system.
So I also have just a couple tidbits to add. So the auto attendant is the menu, and the way that works from my phone expert that's watching our meeting tonight says that it cuts back on call traffic immensely. They said that the cloud option is definitely the most efficient, and transferring calls is much easier on this new system than the system we have. And you can still use an analog line for 911. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but
Yeah, that's part of the taxes. They have that all kind of figured out. What they have to do is they basically have to create records so that when you call from 911, it gives like a physical address of where that phone's located. So,
cool.
So if you go this way, do they have the phones in stock or is it that?
yes, yeah, these are, yeah, they have.
Well, I would just like to talk a little bit more about where those are, or what to look at, just because of the
Yeah,
safety of our
absolutely.
students. And I think, the workroom is one place, but, maybe the lounge is not, because teachers in the lounge are not gonna make phone calls with all the other people that are in and out of that room all the time. So I just think that, we could come up with some better options of where we can put those phones and still keep the numbers limited.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
one of the reasons we went to a phone in every room, because teachers were tired of having to talk to parents with people in and out of the room.
And the other ones that came about from the safety committee as
how we got phones to start with was that, requested as part of our safety plan was having a phone in each room. That's how we got them.
And we did get a quote, I can't remember if it was from Broadway's, but one company did give us a quote for an option of putting phones in every classroom that wasn't quite the $18 per month. But that involved having so many open lines, and then you just have to make sure you don't go over use on those lines, like 10 active lines or something. I don't have that quote right in front of me, but I can
I brought
definitely share that out.
You mean like using them at once?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
like concurrent.
the old internet days?
Yeah, like concurrent. Because basically what you pay for is not users.
2023,
Yeah.
we can't all be on the phone.
Yeah, you pay for concurrent lines, and that's how they charge it versus per phone is per line you have.
Did we used to have that anyway? Was it like-
That's basically what we have with ours now, is I think we have 6 minimum line.
Yeah.
So we could have up to 6 concurrent calls, or you would get a busy signal when you try to call.
I
Which
have
doesn't
a
happen very
call
often.
right here, but
Oh, do you have that one? So,
yeah, they're all broken out differently. They're
yeah,
not
I wanna
monthly
say
though.
that one was like,
Annually, like
Yeah,
for the
it was-
year,
it was, no, it was still monthly.
12,000. Was it Fisher?
I don't know.
Unified IT was $2,000 a month.
Yeah, so $2,000 a month. Yeah,
So-
well, yeah, 826, and then if we paid the $18 per line, that would be, quite a bit over that 2,000.
I guess-
75 phones.
What I would recommend to the board, if I may, is that we move forward with a motion to approve to go through this sort of a service with Broad Voice, and we work together as a team to decide exactly how many phones we need and the location of.
And like I said,
Those
we're not
phones.
limited to just 30. We can add more phones at any time too.
So if I did the math on that and went up to 75 phones, pushes it up to about $1,650 a month. Does that sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would also affect the taxes. I don't have all that information.
My
here. They
quote-
have the taxes.
Okay, I didn't.
Hey,
Like-
Susie,
kind of broken
Yes.
out a little bit, but yeah.
Susie, if, I don't apologize if someone said this, but it looks like this is a 3-year contract.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what if things aren't working out? Do we have any recourse or way to get out of it if it's not what they're advertising it to be over?
So my understanding, the reason we do the 3-year contract is that's what gets the phones included for free, the physical phones. If we didn't want to do a contract, they'd certainly quote that out, but you would probably be paying around $100 to $200 a phone is usually what they are.
We already work, one other thing I just want to mention is we already work closely with this company. That's who we do all of our, it's Pine Cove, technically Broad Voice is through Pine Cove,
Yeah.
we already meet, Luke already meets monthly with, and I just had a meeting with Brandon the other day. So we have a good working relationship. I'm not necessarily concerned with that, if that helps at all. For background, this isn't like a brand new company that we haven't worked with before. They already help us with our switches and our IT operations. I also have the quote here that I had emailed you guys for 90 phones. That was for $1,800 a month.
And real quick, this is based on cloud-based, so it's heavily dependent on internet service, is that correct?
Right.
What's their backup?
It's required internet service.
What's our backup if the internet goes down?
So what we have right now is we have an agreement with Montana Internet. They have fiber here and they have fiber running to the water tower. They're wireless. We have a receiver on the roof that shoots to the water tower. If for whatever reason our fiber lost service and it was an extended outage, they can redirect that antenna and shoot back at the school from the water tower. I know in all the years we've had Montana Internet, that's probably been 6 years now, maybe. I think there was only one time where we had any sort of real outage, and that was when the line got cut in Helena. And that was, I think, like half a day that was out.
Do they maintain the phones as well if they don't work or get a new one?
Yes, yeah, I mean, if they don't work, you send the phone off, they send another one out. Yeah, because you're basically renting the phones, they're still their phones.
My suggestion, I think, would be to, approve the contract based on a dollar figure and then do the quote and figure out if a dollar figure that we approved, isn't enough to cover the phones that they come up with, then we have to come back and approve, additional funds. But that would at least give them the ability to get the ball rolling on this.
Yeah, in the past, I'm trying to think of the term. I've asked you for approval with a contingency flex of a certain amount. So if we could agree to 1,100 or, to be under $1,100 a month or something like that, to get started. And then if we needed to come back beyond that.
That would be.
Susie,
So,
Yes?
this quote is for like $830 a month. I guess where are we coming up with the other $300 to get to 1,100?
That would just give us the room, some wiggle room. For one thing, this quote's expired because it was from April. So there might be a slight increase. And then also just once we determine the number of lines that we feel are necessary.
right, it's pretty obvious at this point that the 30 lines probably is not enough. So I think we need to increase that right from the get-go.
I'm also mindful that we're currently paying $550 a month. And as we've talked about, we're trying to keep the budget tight. So I do not want to spend too much, more than double, which $1,100 would be on our phone system. But I understand the concerns for safety as well. And we don't really have any other options. We have to move forward in some fashion.
But my thought is we start out at 900 a month, because we can always ramp up, but it's harder if we commit to 1,100, we need to scale down. In my mind, it would give me a more comfort zone to do it that way, closer to what this quote was. Again, it's in the business world. I think if we went to them and say, hey, you quoted this in April, will you honor it? Just to get us started with the ideas. We're still trying to figure this out, and it may be more, it may be in here, but I think if we got a good working relationship, I bet you they'll honor that over.
Yeah, I think from this quote, the only prices that would probably change would be taxes, and I imagine they would be pretty comparable, if not the same.
Okay.
But it's, whatever they would calculate out.
Is there,
I guess my recommendation, Chase, is to make a motion.
I'll make the motion not to exceed $900 a month for this contract over.
So second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Broad Voice contract at a maximum of $900 per month, pending review of phones needed. Is there any discussion?
Just so we know, there's a need for more than 30, so we're gonna be coming right back here again. I guess I would not have to revisit this situation, might be my preference, but we gotta do what we gotta do, I guess.
Can I ask a question about the 30 real quick? Is that a number that they kind of threw in, or did
No,
you
that's
guys say
the
we need
number I
30?
asked them. So I went through all of our
Just- oh,
phones and
did
I
you?
determined teacher versus basically admin phone. Admin being, the counselors, the front office staff, the library, special ed staff, administration, and then it came out to like 30 phones.
Okay.
But like I said, I haven't sat down with anybody and said who exactly needs a phone, who doesn't.
Right.
Did they give you a break if you ordered more phones?
No, it's, unfortunately, it's the $18 per month, what they charge. Yeah.
I'd like to formally volunteer my line.
Yeah. We already discussed that over here, we said the same thing.
All right, any further discussion? Discussion?
I am kind of in agreement with Jason, if I'm understanding him right. I don't think let's assume some costs go up, that they don't agree with that. It's not sounding like the extra 3 phones that we're gonna get out of that $900 mark is gonna meet our needs. I can see from the safety, not only from teachers being able to see these kids, but that teachers shouldn't have to run all the way down the hall to be able to call 911. I mean, that's kind of more my concern. And on the phone side of it, I leave my phone at home all the time. So I mean, I just feel like we can't rely on that. There should be a little bit bigger. I understand where Chase is coming from and not wanting to expand too much, but I think if we want to realistically move forward, there should be a little bit more leniency here.
You would have to amend, or somebody would have to amend the motion to change that amount.
Well, we're gonna be right back here next month.
That's my point, because I don't want to talk about it again next month and we're short 10 phones. Why not just add 10 phones now?
But we don't know the number,
And we don't know what the cost is.
right? So we're gonna have to be here, I think.
I guess for what it's worth, maybe we table this, because I would like more time to do some more research on this topic. And again, on the safety thing too, we're in the day and age where most students have cell phones and teachers have cell phones for, a tertiary backup system. So I'm not concerned about safety as far as that goes. But I think we're talking a significant, budget item that's going to be a 3-year contract. It's tough from the very first meeting that we're discussing it to make a decision. I reckon we try and table this then for a month if we can't come together, get to a consensus over.
I'm very concerned with us getting the phones in time and getting the training and the system put in place if we table it. It's a bit urgent in my eyes. I think we at least need to get started with what you guys can agree we can get started with. There are some other options such as soft client, which goes through a computer, which is approximately $2 per seat for a teacher to be able to make phone calls through their computer. There's some different options that we can look into, but for our actual phone system that we need functioning for the offices, we have to have this up and running before school starts.
Would there be an option to approve this as is, to allow them to continue to move forward with this, but then have it on the agenda for next month to update the number of phones after teachers have met to decide kind of where they need to be? So basically we're saying go ahead, but then next month we can look back at this and, okay, we started here, the faculty's coming back and say we need for 5 more. We can vote to adjust it at that time. All we're doing is adding extra lines, but you guys could get started on the process,
Yes,
correct?
that would allow us to start transferring lines. I think the only thing we could potentially run into with adding more later is you might lose some of those phone numbers if that phone number gets assigned to somebody else. I don't know if that's that big of a deal as far as for teacher classrooms, individual teachers, they can send out their phone number if they get an updated one. But other than that, I don't see any reason that we could add more.
With the answer to your question, yes, we can add this back to any agenda from now until eternity. So, we can have it on every agenda if we need to.
Sure.
Okay. So is there any further discussion on the motion that is on the floor? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approval of MHSA annual application and fees. Mark, incorrect.
You guys saw this, you guys saw this last month. I marked girls wrestling instead of boys on accident.
We shouldn't have changed the amount.
We have not implemented girls wrestling yet, so these amounts are correct. It is 16 sports with boys wrestling, not girls wrestling. And we have an activities meeting coming up to discuss girls wrestling and baseball.
So our dues are before due by July 15th. Would the activities discussion take place for this school year?
We can add sports to amend this contract with MHSA at a later date.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve payment of annual dues for MHSA participation at $4,502.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve payment of annual dues for MHSA participation for a total of $4,502. Is there any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approve MTDA MOU for 2023-2024.
We do an annual MOU with Montana Digital Academy for the courses that require payment, and to agree that we will follow their protocols and policies when we have students take their courses. This is a standard document, and we appreciate having this as an option for students for credit recovery as well as original credit courses.
Are we going to offer more?
We are. We have built into the tentative high school schedule sections of classes where teachers will be supervising original credit MTDA students, so they could take classes that aren't offered here, for example, for credit, sometimes also for dual credit.
Awesome.
And we are running a digital academy program this summer. I saw students in there today working to get some credits and get caught up so they can start next year on track with their cohort.
This is separate from a partnership with the universities or something, correct?
Correct. We also have you'll also see an MOU with Helena College that we
We
entered
don't do
into.
anything with MSU or,
Not at this time. We've been working with Gallatin, and we're trying to do some more work with them. I also met with the president of Miles City Community College, who they have some really awesome programs that they're offering that we're looking into, so.
And I don't want to get ahead of myself either, but I was talking to Mr. Schnicken a week or two ago, and he was also looking into some other college opportunities, and he made it sound like there was some things that we would be able to look into. But again, I don't have enough information to share on that, but I know he's working on other opportunities. Okay, is there a motion?
move to approve MTDA MOU 23-24.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the MTDA MOU for 2023-2024. Is there any discussion?
Just, I know the agents, we need to keep going this direction, and legislatures thought that we push harder. Gene Forte's directive is we push this direction too for a lot of students, so just continue to look for that, please.
Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approve the Opportunity Bank authorized user update.
So we just need to get Casey Williams here on the authorized user so she can complete our business with the bank, please.
I will move to approve Opportunity Bank authorized user update.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Opportunity Bank authorized user update stating Casey Williams. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approve CD interest decision, excuse me.
So would you
I'll
like
let
me to?
Casey take this
Yeah.
one.
Do you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay, so
in the statement of account, we have one CD that will mature on 6/27. And what that means is we will have 10 days to decide how we want to handle those funds. Past practice is that we roll the principal balance back into another CD, usually mostly 12 months, and then receive the interest funds as scholarship monies. Our scholarship funds right now are healthy. And right now, this CD unfortunately only earned $500.61. It is our recommendation that we roll the entire principal and interest balance. And hope for the best next year. Let's hope for some better interest rates. The interest rates are outlined in the Opportunity Bank letter. So it is up to you to decide how you want me to handle those funds. We use a 12-month CD so that those interest funds are available for students at the end of every school year.
The forfeiture amounts, that's if,
That's if we do not make a decision within the 10-day allowed period after the maturity date.
so this isn't like a statement or whatever.
No.
Okay.
So if we don't make a decision and we don't act on that within that 10-day window, we're gonna lose about $100 and needlessly, but still.
Can I make a motion? Here's that.
Yep.
I'm go ahead, Chase.
Are we eligible for the 10-month special?
I don't see why not.
4.25%?
Why wouldn't you go 4-month and get even higher rate?
Are these
Because
considered?
if rates correct and go down, in 4 months, we might be at 3.5%. So it's just kind of what you think the market's gonna do. Granted, we don't think the market's gonna go down. But I guess my question is, the institutional funds are not eligible for CD specials, and I'm not sure, is the school considered an institutional fund? Or do we know we qualify for the special rates?
In meeting with the bank, they did not give me any restrictions on the funds. They presented the rates here and did not outline any roadblocks.
Okay. What's everyone else's thoughts on it?
So your 4-month, your 10-month is your, clearly your winner.
Yeah.
From Opportunity Bank.
Will that coming to maturity get the 10-month increment? Do you foresee that causing any issue?
No, not at all.
Can I
No,
say something? When I renew my CDs through the bank, they tell me to go like right the day before, because interest rates can change that quickly. And in my estimations, whatever you decide, if you get closer to the date and there's a better deal, maybe you give a contingency in your motion that says that if there's a higher interest rate the day before this comes mature, that you're able to flip it into a better deal. I'm just telling you what the bank said when I renewed my CDs.
Thank you.
So is it,
Well, if we're eligible, I'd recommend going for the 4-month special, and then reevaluate over.
Is that a motion, Chase?
That's a motion to go with the 4-month special.
It's been moved and seconded to roll the CD into the 4-month special. Is there any discussion?
Yeah. Chase, one question for you, just because you had mentioned it. Is there a concern of staying at just 4 months if it's being perceived that the interest rates are gonna drop?
All indicators are that they may drop, but it may be 18 to 24 months out if it starts to happen. So I think with that said, again, no one has a crystal ball, so it's tough. I kind of like, with the situation we're in with where the markets are, I would go with the 4 month and reevaluate, see what the pulse is on the markets, and then maybe look into going to a 10-month or 1 year CD at that time. Try and maximize that higher rate before they do drop. Anyway, that's just what I've been reading. But again, my crystal ball just broke this morning too, so.
Sure. I think there was a misunderstanding the first time you had mentioned it, so it's better understanding now. Thank you.
The only thing I want us to be aware of are when, there's a reason there's a maturity date of 6/27, because we pay out scholarships in July.
Sure.
So, as long as we can keep those, I mean, right now, our scholarship fund is healthy, but let's not get out of sync with the school year.
Right, because we can never
Yeah.
touch the principal on this amount.
Yes. We don't want to short kids because we got,
But you can take this interest from these 4 months and roll that into a separate one to get on your timeline that you need to be on for.
Yeah, we can take the interest at any
Yeah.
time. We just can't touch the
Right.
100. Right.
exactly.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed.
Please remind me who seconded the motion?
Cool.
Oh, thank you.
Approve remaining June 2023 fiscal year claims. Actually, yeah, it should read, move to allow the chairman to approve the remaining fiscal year claims. So basically, this is the stuff that the checks that need to be written between now and the end of the fiscal year. Obviously, we don't have another planned board meeting between that time. This is a pretty standard operating procedure, something we just have to do every year.
I'll move to allow Chairman Noyes to approve remaining fiscal year 2023 June claims.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to allow Chairman Noyes to approve the remaining fiscal year 2023 June claims. Is there any discussion? Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approve the compensated absence transfer.
Would you like me to? Sure. Okay. Compensated absences are for classified admin employees only. And what that allows us to do is move funds from a budgeted account into technically like a savings account to allow for end of employment payouts. People with large amounts of vacation, sick leave, such things like that. The rule is that we can only move $15,000 into that account. That's like the max that we can do. We can take $15,000 out of our general fund budget, move it into compensated absences and use it for payout funds for salaries. If we have those available.
Right, and there's actually a maximum percentage that we can hold in that account. We can only hold, I think it's believed, 30% of our liability.
Yes, correct. It's outlined on the spreadsheet.
It's standard practice and just good business according to law and past practice so that we have the funds available when we have those folks retire and large payouts to be made. So this would just give the authority to do so if we have the funds to move.
So we're approving the full 15,000 or up to?
Up to.
Okay.
Give us the allowance to do the max transfer if we could.
Is there a motion?
I will move to transfer up to $15,000 from the general fund to the compensated absence fund, depending upon final liability and final budget authority to do so.
Nice.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to transfer up to $15,000 from the general fund to the compensated absence fund, depending upon final liability and final budget authority to do so. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. All right, into personnel. Start with resignations, adult education.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead, all these are listed out to the reasons for their resignation. We've had great staff and appreciated all of these folks being part of our school team. But I'm just gonna list them off, and then if you guys would like to make a motion to approve the resignations as presented, we can move more
We can do
quickly.
them all in one.
So, adult education, Terry Arts, after school and excuse me, I felt that coming. After school and summer director, Katie Goodman, middle school cross-country coach, Daniela Reagan, board of trustees, Dr. Sean Scott, educator, Sarah Schaefer, after-school program, Trinity Wilson.
I will move to approve the resignations as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignations as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. All right, now we're cooking. We can start doing 5 things at a time. Employment for 2022, 2023, so we better do that one separate from the other ones.
Yes, so this is summer employment, and we have Levi Van Zee, John Odell, Laura Frazier, Teresa Connor, Carson Singry, and Megan Osborne for summer camp employment. If you would move the summer camp employment as presented, please.
I'll move to approve the hires for the 2023 summer camps as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the list of hires for the 2023 summer camps as presented. Is there any discussion?
I barely heard this. Was that you?
Daniel.
No,
Oh,
sorry.
excuse me. Okay, thank you.
Goes up there, great camps, they enjoy them, thanks for running together.
Yeah, they've been awesome.
Yeah, I've been getting lots of pictures from baseball, so we went to a baseball game tonight, so.
Yep.
The phone's been sending lots of pictures.
Boys will have lots to say, I'm sure.
Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Okay.
I have one more to add under, that wasn't on the agenda, but since we have personnel, I can add it in. I need to add Gemma Lockery here under summer employment. She is operating a grant that she received, and there is a stipend for her as part of the grant management for $652 for this summer.
And the,
It's a CTE grant.
right, Carly Reese, is that one for 20?
That is, oh yeah, you're right. That, and Carly Reese, is working as a custodian for us this summer. We had a, Chase reduced hours and John Bernard takes some of the summer off. So Carly Reese, our FCLA teacher, stepped up and is working with our custodian and maintenance crew. If you would approve her hire for custodian and maintenance, and Jim Lockery for CTE grant manager.
In a new motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll move to approve Gemma Lockery and Carly Reese for summer employment.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Gemma Lockery, as CTE grant manager, and Carly Reese as custodial for this summer employment. Is there any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Now the 23-24.
All right. So we'll do the same thing. You have the descriptions in front of you and hopefully have had the chance to read them. So we are excited about the new team we're bringing on board and some folks changing or adding duties to their schedules. So we have a volunteer for football, Jace Lewis. We have K-8 teacher Emma Cavarubius joining us from Montana City. Excellent teacher, going to be early primary grades. K-8 teacher Katie Goodman, who was a student teacher here last year. We're very excited to get to keep her. K-8 title teacher Stephanie Pryor had a lot of skills we were looking for. We're excited to have her in that position. Middle school, high school educator, science broadfield teacher Jason Thomas, incredible background and expertise and field experience in science, gonna be really great addition to the team. Fall cheer coach Allie Lampman is really excited to work with those students. We have some girls that are out for cheer that's their only activity and they're really passionate about it. We need to make sure that they are involved and have that opportunity to be involved and have a great time. And we think having the leader of that being on staff will be helpful as well. Our close-up advisor, Joe Gill, stepped up for that. Thanks, Joe. That'll be an exciting opportunity. Denise did it for many years and was ready to step down. Middle school student council, Andrea Tulos is here. She's going to be a rock star for that. And I appreciate all the things she's stepped up to support our school in as she's been joined our team here. Library substitute, our Abra Lewis, who we love, of course. Be happy to have her anytime we can. Head football coach Joe Horn, he did want to be treated as a regular applicant. They did go through a competitive head football coach search and interview process, and he did rise to the top. I would recommend the employment hires for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
Hey, Susie. Couple things. One is I'm really excited to list the names that's coming on board. One individual I want to talk about is Jace Lewis, and the concern I have is we show him in a volunteer status. We talk about talent management within our school. This is an individual that it is a blessing to have him come back to Townsend and to volunteer, but I would really love to see him on the actual payroll. Do we have room in our budget within the football program to put him on payroll?
I can certainly talk to them about that. He just came in and said he wanted to be a volunteer. And we do have other folks that do that. And if they're a formal volunteer, we do ask that they be approved by the board and have their fingerprints and all that done, of course. So I can certainly see if he's interested in doing it as a paid position and if we have a vacancy or the availability to do so.
Yeah, and not to insult anyone that tells us, just want to highlight if there's anyone there that don't know. I mean, he led the Townsend Bulldogs to our first state football championship ever against Huntley Project, plus he wore the coveted number 37 jersey for the Montana Grizzlies, which is an extreme honor. So I think the more that we can make him comfortable and make him feel welcome, I think will pay big dividends for our football program for years to come. Over.
Great, thank you. I know we are doing some honorary efforts as well, and he's part of that, as well as previous athletes that have been very successful and gone a long ways. Mr. Horn's really excited about putting up an honorary wall, and so he's getting memorabilia such as jerseys and sneakers and photographs of them, and putting together shadow boxes that will be in the weight rooms and other areas to motivate our current athletes. So we were talking about that today. So thanks for sharing. And that is also a goal of Joe Horn, is to do more of that, bringing those folks in and highlighting our I think, and he has 3 females and 3 men so far that have agreed to send their stuff in. So that should be fun.
Okay. With that, I so move to bring those listed individuals on employment for 23-24 year.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the list of new hires as presented for the 2023-2024 school year. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Do we have any policy stuff?
No, this month we had quite a bit on the agenda, and we are still waiting for MTSBA to put out our model policies that came out of legislative session. And so we will have our policies next month to go over. We'll take a break after all of our heavy lift in policy work this month.
I believe he said the policy update is done and complete and listed. So we need to add a link on our website so that people can access that.
I will need to get that link.
Yep, he sent it to us. I will forward that on.
Yeah, that was recent. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just yesterday, I believe, that he sent it.
Joe and I've been touching base, and I've been asking Chris. So yeah, we're excited to get that done. So we're looking really good with all of our policies being up to date and aligned to our school district. Each and every policy reviewed over the last year, as we've discussed, and now we'll have the link live. So it's really user friendly and for staff and families in the community to search all of our policies, and they will maintain it to keep them all up to date. And then at the next meeting, we'll look at adopting any new policies or amendments that have come out of session.
On that subject, Joe, the other thing we have to get on there is those 2 CBAs. Once they're finalized, those have to be listed on our school website.
I've been planning a section specifically for union stuff, so that's on my plate.
Very good, thank you, sir. Okay, we on to principals reports. They're still here, I think. Go ahead, Christine.
So just starting off the 21st Century Grant, as you've heard, we have received that. It is a 5-year grant, and the first 3 years will be $212,000. That starts in September 1st or August. I think it's September 1st. And so wrote that in essence in addition to our current after-school program. It couldn't replace our program, but in addition to it. And so got a lot of great ideas on things that I want to give students opportunities that they may not have any other time. And not just kids who attend after-school program, but just opportunities for kids to have some more of those hands-on learning pieces. Kind of like what I tie into summer camps. You know, we've had great attendance with summer camps. Cooking one always fills up first every year. But the others, we've been 20 to 25 kids in some of them, and so they're up there in numbers, and more people keep showing up on each week. And that's kind of how I do my summer camps too, because we have one summer camp with middle school that they're going all the way to Kalispell, Whitefish area for an overnight. They're camping at KOA, and they're going to the Vortex House, and they're going to go to the Alpine Slide and the tree thing. So just trying to give kids those opportunities of areas that maybe appreciate Montana and learn more about Montana itself, because they do not just fun things like that. They learn about history and how Montana came about, and got some great volunteers along with things like baseball that they got to go to a game tonight. So, and staffing in numbers, last I checked, I believe we had 71 kindergartners signed up for next year. And our first grade and second grade are up there as well, where 3 teachers are not enough. And so currently with our new hires, we have 4 kindergarten teachers, 4 first grade teachers, 4 second grade teachers. And we have 2 third grade teachers, but we do have a small third grade for next year. 3 fourth, and then 2 fifth grade teachers. We do have a small one. And so one of our 5th grade teachers has moved down to 1st grade. So we are staffed fully, along with 2 special ed teachers. So the only thing we are not staffed in yet is the elementary counselor. That's one thing we still have not been able to fill. The last day of school, we had our award ceremony, and it was great. We have our Bikes for Books program for third or fifth, that after so many points, they get to put their name in for a drawing. And so each year I get those names for those teachers, and my husband and I have made it a chore to try and find bikes that fit those kids each year. So this year, the fifth grader who one's a little bit taller, so we had to buy the next size up, but we want to make sure those bikes fit those kids too. And so that's always been a fun one that we get to do. This year, we did bring back, the Legion has been approaching me and trying to get back into the school. They've been out for a while. And so they came to me and wanted to bring back the Citizenship Award. And so that is actually just for fifth grade, and the students nominate someone in their class to win this award. And so we had a boy and a girl in each class. And so we had those winners identified early on, and I was able to call parents with a couple of weeks' notice and made a promise to keep the secret, but they had to, so that they could be there. And so it was really cool to have them there, and they actually got to pin the medal onto the students. And so Miss Vanessa was there that day, so it was really cool to have that back in our school again, and I look forward to having it back this year. And they also want to come in and bring in some flag etiquette and some other things. So start working with them and get them involved with us more. I couldn't remember, I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged them as well, because during our staff appreciation week, the Legion came over and cooked our entire staff a lunch. They did pulled pork and salads and desserts and more food. They even did gluten-free. I mean, they covered it all. And I just want to thank them for doing that. It was huge, and I know the teachers really appreciated it. I know the Legion just really wanted to do something for them. In the past, they tried to do something in the evenings, and that's been difficult. So this year, I asked them about doing something during the day, and they loved it. And they've already booked for next year. So just so you know, they've already booked for next year. So they're excited to do it again. Tree board, we have that every year as well with fifth grade. They have their Arbor Day competition, and where they draw, they have a theme, and then they draw, the kids put in their artwork for it, and then a few of us get together and judge those artwork and choose the top one. They have the top three, and there's prize money for the top three, and then the first place one that actually receives their picture framed, and then an additional one is put in the school. All of those were taken down with the tear down of the building, obviously, and they've been in storage. But I have talked to Mr. Riddle, and we are going to put them in the hallway off of the learning stairs. There's a nice long hallway off to the right of learning stairs that we can go down one side and back up the other. So right now there's 19 years of them, and so next year is year 20. So I'm really trying to keep that rolling with them. But so I thank the tree board for putting that together, and that they keep hosting that event. Our last family luncheon was with fifth grade, and normally we don't see a very large crowd with our older kids, but one of the things for my leadership course was changing everything to family versus parent. And I think that's made a huge difference, especially with like these luncheons. It's a family luncheon. I mean, we will have some there'll be 8 people in that family to join lunch with them. And it's just really cool to see all of them come in, and even the fifth graders, you know, they try and act all cool, but they enjoyed it too, because I had one who was upset because their parent was late. So they made it, but so it's just really cool to see what a difference, just by changing that verbiage from parent to family, what it's done. And I think it's made everyone feel a little more welcome into coming to those events by doing so. And so we've had a great turnout this year with our family luncheons. Of course, Ag Day was a huge hit. Thank you to Mrs. Larson and all of her hours and efforts that she puts behind this event. I know her heart is really into it, and we appreciate every moment and all the volunteers that she puts together for it. It's a huge event, and I know the kids love it. Made a few changes this year for the construction. They were getting tired of construction everywhere we go. But made the best of it, and from my understanding, the kids really enjoyed it. as always, the high school kids that are involved also do a great job. It's always neat to see them be part of it as well. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
The parents enjoy it too.
They do. And the lunch is always awesome,
Yeah.
always. Can't ignore the lunch. Gotta thank the lunch crew. So. And then, as Susie had mentioned, we attended, the following week after school was out, we attended a safety professional development, a threat assessment. And it was really informative. It was really a great piece. And just the people that we got to network with and meet. There's FBI agents sitting at our table one time and police from other states and stuff. And just really getting to converse with them and hearing their points on things. And then talking about, some events that have happened and how things, things that could be done and why they happen certain ways. And it just really opened your eyes to some things. So it was very informative. Professional development.
It was heavy, but it was good.
Yeah.
We got to hear from the witnesses that have survived some of the mass shootings and different things and what, went through their head, what they were able to do to be one of the survivors. And yeah, it was pretty amazing, incredible what warning signs that their teams missed and what their companies or schools have put in place since to catch those warnings. And yeah, it was pretty incredible.
And then with that 21st Century Apps, I do have some conferences that I have to attend this summer now. So in July, I have 3 days I'll be in Folsom, and then 2 days in New Orleans, and 2 days in Bozeman, all through the month of July. So my July is like gone.
I guess I'm just going to add one thing real quick to that Ag Day. Again, appreciate all you've done, and I know it's extremely important to me, and I think it's important to our kids in our community that we keep that going. And I know Lisa's at the upper end of the matrix, we'll call it, and I know, yeah. I hope that we, as an administration, as a district, find a way to, help facilitate that to continue on.
And that's something I talked to Lisa. We discussed it. We talked about possible other people. So that's something we definitely want to keep it on.
Yeah.
A mentor, someone she can mentor this next go around. All right.
Very good. Mr. Ron.
Kind of a lot of stuff along the same lines as Mrs. Hartman. Looking through our class sizes for next year, we're going to have some very large classes again. I think that's, I think we've all kind of accepted that's the new norm, at least for a while. I think they're all going to be manageable sizes and things that we can handle with our current staff. And I'm still waiting on, we're still kind of putting the pieces together with some new staff and contracts and all that. So there's a few things hanging out in the air that have kind of don't quite have some of the stuff wrapped up that we'd normally like to have wrapped up by this time of year. But I would anticipate a lot of those get cleared up soon. It's all starting to come together. The pieces are falling into place pretty well. And we've looked to, I guess just so you guys know, we've really looked at try to think outside the box as to how to get the best, best use of our resources with the staff we have and how we've hired and those kind of things. Sometimes you find that, it's hard. It's just really complicated to make all the pieces fit. I think you guys understand that. There's a definite domino effect when you start moving pieces around and taking from one place to help out another. But I think we've looked about the best we can as an admin team and gotten some insight from teachers and that kind of thing as to how we could do it. We'll be ready for another year next year with a few new faces, and I would anticipate probably quite a few new kids. I think last year in the middle school we started in August with like upwards of 25 more students than we ended the year with. That was usually we figured we gained you know, when kids move out, kids move in, it's usually, you know, it might fluctuate either way, 10 or 12 kids. Last year was definitely the largest game I can remember. We may have that again, but we're prepared for it if we do. And then we had our 8th grades awards night. Would like to thank Chase and Vanessa for being a part of that. It's a very nice night. It's really grown over the years, and it's, I kind of have some reservation about it a little bit in a way. And I guess my reservation about it, I'm not saying we don't continue doing it in some form or whatever, because I think it's really important to recognize, you know, milestones and achievements. But as I look at the situation in our high school, and I know for several years we've talked about dropout issues and concerns over kids that don't complete high school. And I addressed this a little bit as I spoke to the people gathered for the awards night. You know, I guess my concern is that if we make a big deal out of it, and the parent, just so you guys know, there's a big dance celebration, everything that's totally done by the parents. The school does not really have a part in that. I guess as I look at things, you know, I think it's really important that we emphasize that, you know, it's cool, they've finished 8th grade, but if that's the pinnacle of it, there's something missing with it all. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind as we move forward. And I've wondered a little bit if it's not, you know, I've always operated kind of feeling like as you go through school, things should get cooler as you go. And I feel strongly about that with like middle school sports, everything as you do it. I think that's one of the problems with some of the youth sports and why you don't get the numbers out in high school that you used to, because you get to high school and go, wow, we got way cooler stuff in 5th grade or whatever. And as I look at that, I just, you know, I hope that's not a contributor to some of the things as they go to high school. Like, I've been through this, what do I have to look forward to? Because I think everybody in here agrees that, you know, the graduation ceremony that comes at the end of 12th grade is the one we all need to be focused on. And so, and over the years, I've tried to kind of move it back to, you know, we call it awards night. We try to recognize what they did in middle school, and really the graduation piece is really kind of a misnomer anyway, because, you know, it's not really a thing, quite honestly. And I just hope, you know, I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure that it's not, that it's recognized as simply, not simply, but as a milestone and not the end point in somebody's career, because I think we're seeing more and more that are looking at other options as they get to high school. And if there's something we can do with that ceremony to maybe help, I guess, to push that along, we'd be glad to look at it. So I think that's important. But it was a very nice night. It is a nice night. The parents do a lot of work, and really proud of, if you ever go, you see the number of students we have involved in different things is really impressive. The kids get involved in a lot of things, not just sports, but all kinds of different things. And really, I think it's cool that most of the teachers do something to recognize students that have gone above and beyond in the classroom. I think that's great. And we recognize like the honor roll students, and probably the best part is we do a citizenship award with it. It's kind of a cool deal, and I think maybe the most important one we give. So anyway, I guess just food for thought as you guys, if you see some things that, well, maybe some tweaks we could make or whatever, I'd sure like to hear from you.
I forgot one thing, sorry. I know, I can't go backwards, sorry. I meant to talk about in our staffing with kindergarten with 4 right now. We are discussing a transitional kindergarten classroom. as being one of those 4 classes, which is students that still qualify for kindergarten. But we've had some parents reach out that, we've had like 2-year programs in the past where, students will do 2 years of kindergarten. The one thing we've run into is that they'll say they're gonna do 2 years, well then they're with those classmates and the parents decide that they don't wanna hold them back. And it's detrimental to them too, is that, so then we have kids moving on that are not quite ready. And if we do something like a transitional kindergarten, then we'd have groups of kids in that room, about 15 of them, that then would be with that class. And then they'd move up to kindergarten with that group of kids. So then they would be actually moving on at the, at a rate where they're actually ready for those next transitions. So I'm reaching out to those families and seeing if we have enough people that would be interested in that. I've had quite a few so far, but I'm still making those phone calls and discussing them what that transitional kindergarten would look like. If we have enough people, then that's something we discuss about doing 3 kindergarten classrooms and 1 transitional kindergarten.
And then depending on how the numbers shook out, that would take seats out of the other 3 kindergartens. So we would be able to keep our numbers down or hopefully stay within the state limits as we get additional students in the fall. But there'd also be a potential opportunity for the board to approve 4-year-olds to be added to the transitional kindergarten. It can be based on a need or an income level or different things like that. Like in Livingston, we did it, the income level right above the families that didn't qualify for Head Start, but were still lower income. And so we offered it to them first priority. So if we had like 3 seats still open, if we didn't get to quite to 15, for example, with our transitional, the board can approve to allow 4-year-old kindergartners, and we still get A and B for them. So.
But they didn't have to go through 3 years of kindergarten?
Nope, then they would just move into kindergarten with that group the next year. They would be a regular kindergarten student. So it'd basically give them a preschool, or it's basically like a preschool opportunity for them. So.
But the number right now is 71 of them, hoping to be at 15 to 16 for that 4K, because otherwise we're not gonna bring these spots with, 3 kindergarten classrooms, as it is with a cap of 20.
Just want to say thank you to both of you for only 21st Century Grant, Ag Day, all those accomplishments that add up to extra work and extra time away from families. And just thank you to you guys for the work on that. It's definitely helpful and definitely key to making this place successful. So thank you for that. The only question I had is we look to the future, seeing the large class sizes, we know it's a wave that's coming through the grades and probably will continue to increase. What are we doing to address that 3 years, 5 years from now in terms of space needs?
That's why we did the additional 2 classrooms. And yeah, that's something we'll have to continue to consider. There's new legislation regarding, open enrollment. We could always take a tuition. We right now do not charge tuition for out-of-district students. So.
I'm just talking physical space.
Yeah, I'm saying
I don't think we'd have any trouble running another school long.
We do, yeah. We do have, that's definitely a good conversation for the facilities committee or group. We do have available spaces and rooms at this time. Long-term plans, we're just gonna have to, it's just gonna be interesting to see what happens with the trend. So if it continues or what, we do have other pockets of grades like 2nd grade right now. It's small. It's really weird. So yeah, it's interesting.
Right now we have 1 classroom that will be empty this next year.
In the elementary and then we have some in middle school and high school.
So we're still not full.
The middle school classrooms are where I see the town bottleneck. We have room in the high school. It's the middle school where I think we're starting to probably feel that there's a pinch right now.
I think so, and some of that domino effect of creating some space, I think will help with that, for sure.
I do have a couple things from Sherry. So, the principals are not required to be here. They're off contract, just so y'all know they're donating their time tonight. Overachievers, thank you. And Sherry is on granddaughter duty, and now she feels bad because she's watching online and would have came if she knew everybody else was here. So, anyways, she just wanted me to say that she is listening, and she felt bad for not coming in person. We have the high school PE position still open. I did update our jobs today. So when I do that on the OPI list, it bumps them to the top of the open job list on OPI. So I've been doing it like once a week. So those I think are our critical positions right now, the high school PE and the K counselor that we have open. I just added, now that we saw the state of the rental and agreed we could have it ready, I added 4-day school week and district housing available in bold. I think a lot of people, we even heard people when we interviewed them said like, so it looks like I'm gonna have to live in Helena because if they research Townsend, they see there's no housing available. So I'm hoping that we'll get some applicants coming in. There's some other options. I sent this to you guys in an email today, but MREA offers support. We need to renew our membership with them, but they are doing a great job of helping schools fill vacancies right now. So we might want to take them up on that. And then I know Sherry's been posting on Facebook. She also had a great end to the school year with her kids. The seniors were fantastic and graduation was beautiful, besides our fun technology issues, which can be part of our facilities planning moving forward, right? So besides that, I'm gonna go really quick into my review. I sent you guys an update. We've already covered a lot of the conversations. We're still waiting for one of Brad's middle school teachers to return her contract. And then we talked about the K counselor and the PE teacher. I already shared with you guys what I'm working on right now, what my priorities are. We're going to be hitting budget hard. The financial trustees report is going to be a huge lift for mainly for Pam and Casey, and that's going to be a big focus in our office for July. I will also be working on planning for the new calendar and all those different details we need to plan and work out that we've been discussing. We're planning PRR days for staff training to kick the school year off. A lot of that's going to be safety focused on our new safety plan and protocols. And we're working on new mentoring and onboarding plans for our new staff. Mrs. Hartman and I will be working on the 21st Century Grant implementation and that 5th day planning. I will attend some of the meetings or trainings with her, but not all of them, depending on what needs to be done around here as well. And pretty excited about the transitional kindergarten. I've seen it work really well in other districts that we've utilized it in. And I am on our 5th day questionnaire, and I'm trying to get it to let me see the results on my laptop. It shows up a little different. What I do know is, there we go, responses. We have had 194 responses at this time. We have 24% of them that said they would be interested in 5th day programming. We have around 50 students. We have the majority of them said that they would utilize it occasionally. 40% said regularly. They said 60% said they'd prefer to have a lunch provided. 55% that transportation from central locations would be helpful. And And then they seemed equally excited about enrichment, physical activities, academic tutoring, and fun social activities. There wasn't one that stood out that people really wanted to see. I do know that board members, and I've had a couple parents call about academic tutoring. We utilize high school students right now, and they've been awesome this year to do tutoring, and especially with like that middle school age group of students. And then with the 21st Century Grant, the way that Ms. Hartman wrote the grant is the pay is a pretty high wage, a competitive wage. Those people only work for a few hours a day. You have to understand also, so we have to make it worth their while. Even the students and the adults that agree to work that program get paid. It's a grant and it's outside of our bargaining agreement, so they get paid well. So hopefully we can get some teachers also to agree to put some hours in for that tutoring and support that 5th day programming or after school or summer school program. Like you've seen, a lot of the teachers are teaching the camps. And I can't wait for my camp. So I'm taking the kids to Holter and Lucid Carter Caverns. So I'm for an overnight with Mr. Odell. So that will be a hoop. Can't wait for that. And then 47% said that they would pay a fee depending on the cost. 25% said they wouldn't be able to pay for the 5th day programming, and 27% said that they wouldn't mind paying for programming. And then 40% said they'd like to see it go from 8 to 5, and the next largest was 8 to 4, and then 8:30 to 3:30. So it looks like quite a few of those people that need that 5th day care work a regular work day that 5th day. And so that is the information we've got. And I've only gotten a couple phone calls, and they were just like, thanks for offering, but we don't need service on Friday. And then I had one comment that said that we should have done this survey before, or this communication before, collected this information before making decisions, was the only comment. Someone emailed me. Basically sums up what they said. So that's that information. A couple other things I just wanted to mention. Like I said, I'll be working with Ms. Hartman on that, on those amendments, on 5th day planning and all the details that go along with our new calendar, the professional development, or the PLC time for the staff on those days. I want to thank the principals for taking their time. I know it was stressful because they were like wanting to figure out schedules and get their final paperwork caught up, but I think that the Safety Development Conference was a really good opportunity for us to all hear the same messaging and focus on safety. And there was a lot more to it, even like how we communicate with staff, like communication techniques for working with staff for de-escalating situations with upset parents, everything from that to identifying someone that could be potentially walking in as a threat. Right now we have the secretaries going through threat assessment training because we realized like they're right there on the front line, all those kinds of things. And then we just had a great time of networking ourselves and kind of team building when we got to go out to dinner afterwards. And so that was awesome. I wanted to thank the county also for working with us and being flexible and setting up, like I said, agreeing to set up the transportation meeting with me, agreeing to try to meet the new goals and deadlines that we've set forward. So I wanted to thank Melissa, and I wanted to thank Angie for all the work she put into running a smooth election for us, and for taking the time to come and swear you guys in. So thank them, and I think I'm going to leave it at that. It's been a long night. And just really thankful for my team and those of us that are here all summer cooking in the office that doesn't have the area that doesn't have air conditioning, even though we're here year round, just Just throw it out there. So if we're not in our suits this summer, give us a little grace. It's getting warm down there. And the custodians have been awesome. And yeah.
Can I ask a question about the fifth day survey?
Yeah.
So-
Questionnaire.
Yes. Do I,
Survey's a dirty word.
do I understand correctly that, so a couple of hundred people took it, and so 24% wanted it. All the numbers past that, like when you talk about 40% would do this, that's 40% of the 24%?
Yes.
So, okay. So I just wanted to make sure, thank you.
Yes.
When we had the 21st century in the past, it averaged about 50 to 60 kids, so that's what I figured we had, about 50 or 60 kids, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I talked to Hannah in Whitehall and they had 45 sign up.
Yeah.
Three Forks last year started with about 45, 50 like we're seeing. And then by the end of the year, they had 8 coming on Fridays. So.
I think that's also, I don't know what they're using either, with the 21st century grant, there's a lot of opportunities that we could do that might.
Yeah, we don't plan on it. I mean, with the 21st century guidelines, it can't just be daycare. It has to be, and it has to have a lot of focus on different components and be very well organized and ran. So as you can see from the summer camps, Mrs. Hartman does a great job with that.
Just want to give a shout out to the Lunch in the Park program and staff and
Yes.
family members we have running that. I've been able to attend the last couple days. And I think today they said that they had the highest that they've had all summer so far, which is like 82 that they had fed by noon.
Wow.
So that park was overrun with kids and the camps going on. It sends a lot more students to it. So hats off to staff and their families that are putting that on. So.
Thank you for sharing.
That's why I bumped our camps the way I did until 11:30 and not start till 1, because in the past they weren't getting to that in time. So that's why I bumped them like that, so they could run over there and everyone. It works out really well.
Yep, it's been great.
Good thinking. All right, yes, thank you both for attending tonight. I know you didn't have to. We appreciate that.
Thank you for Sherry for calling in. She's like, hey.
Thank you, Joe, as usual, for your time. The only thing I want to add at the end is a reminder that board training next Thursday night, 22nd, 5:30. We have to make sure we post that as a public meeting. And MTSBA will be here to do a kind of initial board training and good reminder and refresher for all the even us veterans here. So thank you, everybody. I know that was a long one. Thanks for sticking it out. Thanks for all you've done for this year, and look forward to doing it again. Meeting adjourned.
You're not out of here.